Hi, my name is Charlene, and my inquiry-based project was on how to revitalize the classics through the use of pop culture. Let's get started. Through my experience in the classroom, I have noticed a marked disinterest from young adult readers towards those works of fiction considered to be classics by experts in the literature field, such as critics, publishers, professors, and respected authors. By using research as a starting point, I examined this issue further in the hopes of discovering ways to encourage young adult readers' curiosity and enjoyment of this genre. Although I had also wanted to utilize my blog, for those of you interested, go to http://miss-s-books, livejournal.com/. I am in the process of creating for this class in order to further explore this issue. I have yet to gather a large list of subscribers, or on LiveJournal friends. Through my research, however, I have been able to compile a set of 9 different tactics that could be used in a library setting to encourage the reading of classic literature. Many of these tactics employ the use of pop culture simply in an effort to make the ideas more appealing for teenagers. In this video, I'll highlight all 9 suggestions, explaining both the thought process behind them and the ways I thought they could be used by a young adult librarian. All of these thoughts are displayed on my blog and accompanying archive. Plus, I have uploaded all the documents I have created to go along with this project for your perusal and use as well. Here we go. Well, you can guess what happens next. Insert a wedding scene. As if I'm only 16 and this is California, not Kentucky. That quote is clearly from a work of classic literature, right? No, not really. It is. Well, sort of. You see, that quote is from the movie Clueless, a modern adaptation of Jane Austen's classic novel Emma. It keeps the general plot and themes the same, while at the same time making it accessible for today's audience by changing the time frame, the language, and the setting so teens can relate. Some other well-known examples are the movie The 10 Things I Hate About You, which is a reworking of Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew, She's the Man, which retells Shakespeare's Twelfth Night, and She's All That, which is a modern version of Pygmalion, which we know as the inspiration behind My Fair Lady. For more such movie correlations, see my list. As for a young adult librarian, once they have a base knowledge for this idea, they can then say to their patrons, if you like this movie, perhaps you might like the classic book or play which inspired it. Next, let's take a look at supernatural rewrites of classic novels, because after all, we're all aware of the fact that nothing goes better with Pride and Prejudice than zombies, right? Well, Seth Grahame-Smith obviously thought so, and in writing such a book, he created an entire new genre, monster mashups. Once more, I have compiled a list of works that fit into this category. Considering how popular the supernatural is today, hello vampires, I'm talking to you, hopefully librarians will be able to use this genre to inspire teens to read the original works which helped to create those mashups. Furthermore, if the kids do show an interest, then a YA librarian who is comfortable with creative writing could then encourage their patrons to brainstorm for their own ideas. Working with them, the librarian could then encourage their patrons to write their own supernatural rewrites of classic novels. But to do so, the teens would have to read those classics first. This idea could also be used in a classroom as well, as is the case with many of my ideas. Personally, I am not a fan of graphic novels or comic books, but they're popular with readers, and young adult librarians should take advantage of this fact, especially seeing as how there are quite a few classic novels which have been adapted into graphic novels. To further encourage such interest, the library could hold a competition where students could submit their own comic book adaptations of classic works, both for display and perusal by other patrons, if the teenagers were willing to share their ideas with the community. Once more, to assist with this tactic, I have created a list of available comic book adaptations. Idea number 4. Think about how popular contemporary books are inspired by or reflect a past classic work. For example, Stephanie Meyer's, author of the Twilight series, has quite vocally shared the fact that her books were inspired by several classic novels such as Wuthering Heights, Pride and Prejudice, and Romeo and Juliet. Although there, unfortunately, is no source which provides educators and librarians alike with such a list of correlations, I have been able to assemble a lengthy list of works inspired by Jane Austen's writings. Furthermore, I have found links and shared them on my blog with lists of works which reflect Shakespeare's plays and Bronte's Wuthering Heights. For this idea, young adult librarians would need to continue developing connections between contemporary novels and the classics of the past, so that when they notice their patrons reading certain books, they can point them in the classics' directions. Trade-offs. If we expect kids to take our advice and read books that are recommended to them, we better be willing to do the same in return for them. So for my fifth idea, it's simply to entice young adult patrons into reading the classics by offering, as their librarian, to read whatever book they recommend to us. Afterwards, sit down with them and compare notes, have a discussion, and maybe inspire each other to read other books out of our usual comfort zones. In the AP Junior Literature course, in which I sub quite often, students must read so many pages a quarter from a list of teacher-approved classic books. Needless to say, many of the books the kids complain about. However, several weeks ago, when I was working, one of the students was reading The Catcher in the Rye. Despite the fact that it was not a novel he would normally pick for himself, he was intrigued by the fact that he was allowed to read it, simply because of what would be considered by some people to be controversial material. Because he felt like he was rebelling slightly, the book was suddenly more appealing to him. I say librarians should use this. Teenagers like nothing more than to buck what society, their teachers, and their parents tell them is right, what they tell them they should be doing. So, appeal to this rebellious nature and tease and suggest classic works of literature which have been challenged or banned for whatever reasons. And don't just do this during Banned Books Week either. Do it all year round. And do it by more than just word of mouth. Make displays too. Anything to capture and intrigue their attention and interest. Music is extremely popular with individuals, but it seems to be even more popular with teenagers. Did you know that there are hundreds of songs that have been inspired by classic literature? I found this amazing site which lists many such popular songs and the sources they were inspired by. This too can be found on my blog. Plus, think of all the great movie soundtracks over the years. For example, both William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet and Great Expectations, the more modern version, feature compelling lists of songs on their soundtracks. By sharing such information with students, librarians might be able to tempt them into reading a work of classic literature. For example, they could say, if you like this song, you might like the book which inspired it. Plus, they could even invite students to offer such song recommendations too, by encouraging them to find songs that they like that they feel have been inspired by classic books. If they could justify their connections, then the librarian would agree to listen to and try out the patron's music. As a music lover myself, I know that I enjoy turning my friends and family members onto new music and new songs. Also, I find that music can be very inspiring when it comes to my creative writing. Why couldn't it also inspire reading as well? I don't know about you, but I am a trivia junkie. In fact, one of my goals is to someday be a contestant on Jeopardy! And I think this interest in trivia, or what some people consider just to be random facts, is something that many avid readers have in common. So why not appeal to young adult readers' curiosity and love of trivia too? In order to do this, young adult librarians could compose lists of trivia questions to intrigue their patrons. My idea is that they could create PowerPoint presentations and such library clues and questions and have them playing for teens to see, read, and be inspired by. As an example, I created a brief PowerPoint presentation featuring famous quotes, first lines, and closing lines from classic novels and plays. Please take a look and see if you would be interested in using this idea as well, and if you would be intrigued enough by some of the quotes, suggestions, and questions to search out the classic literature. Ninth and finally, and personally, I think that I saved the best for last. There is the idea of teaser trailers and short videos featuring plot summaries, character analysis, theme revelations, and many other aspects of literature. I found this idea in an article which was printed in the Boston Globe. Again, the link is provided on my blog. Jenny Sawyer has started recording and sharing such videos as described above. The link to her site is also provided on my blog. Not only should her clips be used, but librarians could get the local theater and media students involved as well. In correlation with the local school districts, they could work with the kids to have their own teaser trailers and videos produced. Not only could these air in the library, but if agreed to, then they could air during school news presentations as well. Personally, I love this idea because kids relate so much better to each other rather than to adults. So, when you get creative and you get many people involved and it uses modern advertising formats to revitalize classic works of the past, I really think this is something, an idea that kids could appreciate and show results with as far as how many classic books they would read as a result of watching these videos. I hope that you'll take the time to check out some of Sawyer's works. Not only have I posted 4 of them on my blog, but following the link to her site, you'll gain access to all the videos she has produced so far. They're amazing and so enthusiastic. So, that's it. Those are my 9 ideas of how classic literature could be revitalized through the use of pop culture. While I haven't been able to test them out on actual library patrons, I do know that after completing this project, I personally want to discover some of these classic books that I have yet to read. Cross my fingers. Hopefully you and your young adult patrons will someday want to as well. Thanks. Now, go play around, discover, explore, but most importantly, read.